Here, he came with me. You can hear me? Oh, you need it tighter? Okay, zip it up. Is it okay? Got it. Okay. So this is Zach. He's my younger brother. I coached. He is basically my experiment. As I was trying to figure all this kind of stuff out, he was the guy. His group of friends were the kids I was working with and trying to figure out skill development. He currently plays for the Bisons. And he's kind of got a hobby of taking video and doing photos and stuff like that, helping my own branding, trying to help the clinic in terms of making this bigger and better, getting more interest. So anyway, he's here. The one thing I'll say before I get into my presentation, and I think this applies to both presentations, like I'm not saying that this is it. I'm still trying to figure this out. This is just how I've conceptualized skill development, and I've tried to develop a framework for how I understand it. So I'm not, if I say something and you say, oh, I don't do that, that's fine. All I'm trying to get you to do is to challenge your thinking and think a little bit differently about how you do things every day. This isn't, we're trying to butt heads. I'm just trying to present some information. So the first thing I'll say is I'll kind of take you through my development. So I started coaching when I was 14 years old. I was coaching him. They didn't have a coach, so that's how I got in. And basically when I started, I was coaching, or I was playing in high school basketball. And I was trying to take stuff from my high school coach. So he was really big on spacing, positioning, a lot of good things that I use with our players. There's a couple things maybe I didn't agree with, but I used those things because that's all I knew. Then I got interested in coaching. I was probably about 17, 18. I started, we had a super coaches clinic in Winnipeg, and that's a big deal. So I started going to that and watching a bunch of clinic DVDs that Basketball in Manitoba had. And pretty much I was just watching those DVDs, and then it was I'm stealing all these drills. I'm going to take all these drills, and whatever they do, that's what I'm going to do in my practice. So there was no understanding of context. Where does this actually apply? Now, what's a good example? Coach said Jim Boeheim, saw Jim Boeheim show the skill development, bang, I'm going to do it. So that's kind of where I was at. And then from there, it kind of became, I got in touch with Brian McCormick, and if you want to write something down, like Coach said, if there's one thing you want to write down, I think Brian McCormick is somebody you want to write down and use as a reference. He talked a lot about transfer and retention, a games approach to teaching, transfer, retention, all that kind of stuff. And it made me start to think about what kind of drills I was using to develop skills. And one of the concepts that I'm going to be touching on in a second is difficulty, complexity. I talked about it last year when I was here, but I'm going to get into it a little bit more. Just again, from now coaching high school basketball, I'm able to do whatever I want. So I'm constantly experimenting every day to try to figure this stuff out. And then what I kind of figured out is saying, okay, so I've got a limited amount of energy and time. I can't be with you guys every day and talking to the players. So you have to understand when you go work on your games, what does that actually look like? And I said I wasn't very good. As a player. I didn't play college. I was thinking about playing JC, like junior college, but I ended up just, coaching because I found it, I was passionate about it. And anyway, I did a lot of stuff that never made me better. I thought I worked pretty hard. I worked on my jump shot. I did the ball handling drills that you see everywhere on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. I did all that stuff, and I didn't feel that helped me get better. So then I'm thinking, okay, I need to teach these players how to work on their game. And I titled it Empowerment. I want the kids to go in and feel this is what you do when you get better. This is how it looks like. So a big part of that, if we look at this, all this information, okay, the mic, is understanding difficulty and complexity. So again, this is probably, for some of you guys, this might just completely, you don't agree with it, that's fine, but just hear me out. What I think, like when I think of shooting, for example, let's say I'm shooting 1-on-0. To me, that's a task. I don't think that's a skill. To shoot, I think it's the way you move your body, coordination, rhythm, balance. I think it becomes a skill, and I talk about macro and micro skills. So a macro skill, meaning concept, could be like shot preparation. To me, that's a skill. I can go in the game and say how he anticipates, he measures distance, and obviously the other thing is I got to be able to hit shots when I'm guarded. So shooting 1-on-0, to me, that's not a skill. Again, is it going to help develop coordination, rhythm, balance? Or should you spend time on it? Obviously, yes, I think so. Not obviously, but I think you should. But I think players just spend way too much time, and there's no decision making. A quick example is just with the Westmen, the one I worked with them a couple years ago. We had this kid from Toronto, super good with the ball, like, had all the handles, had the ball in his hands, dominant guard, would just break down and get to the basket. Real good at that. His shooting mechanics were great, and he would, come out here 1-on-0, and he'd shoot a high clip, I don't know, 70, 80, 90%, whatever, 1-on-0, just shooting the rock on a shooting machine or whatever. So anyway, it got to the point where we'd play any type of one-on-one drill, and the guy would close out, short, hands down. The guy's like this, to me, that's an open shot, and he would never shoot it. And I asked him, I said, what's the deal? Why aren't you shooting the ball? He says, well, I'm not open. I said, the guy has his hands down, and he's closing out short. You're open. You gotta shoot the ball. So he had a poor, his understanding of, space, measuring distance, had no idea. And then the other thing is because he always played with the ball, his shot preparation, let's say in transition, we're coming down this way, and I'm gonna sprint to the corner, and I gotta spot up in transition. And then he had no ability. He jogged the floor, his hands and his feet weren't ready, those little things. And to me, again, thinking as a macro concept, I think you can develop that through a games approach, and that's complexity. So again, for me, difficulty. So this is how I got this from a book a couple years ago. Daniel Coyle, I think. I can't remember the title, but he basically talked about this continuum of difficulty. Actually, not difficulty, just this continuum. And I paired it up with what Brian McCormick. So I'll just get through it. And again, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just stop me and ask. Again, I think my knowledge is good, but my ability to present, that's why I'm here. I'm working on it, okay? So the first one, easy. So it's like, let's say I was doing a shooting drill. We're thinking task, 1-on-0. We're developing coordination, rhythm, and balance. If I'm shooting the ball 1-on-0, I have like a 90% success rate. And what's success based on? It's based on the ball going through the hoop. And then we'd work down and we say more difficult. And what Daniel Coyle says is this is a sweet spot. And basically, it's a success rate of 50% to 65%. You're in that range. And what he's saying with that success rate, it's like, you're building momentum. I'm seeing the ball go through the basket. I'm missing, like maybe I'm on the move, this is challenging, but I'm building momentum. I feel good about this. If it gets too difficult, like we're below 50%, some players may feel discouraged. And maybe in the short term they can work at this, but longer term this becomes difficult to maintain my interest, on working on that task. Let's say if it's shooting 1-on-0. Then what I talk about is complexity. So complexity is like game-like practice. So it's considering the variables, and I'll talk about the variables in a second, but what I mean by complexity is the game of basketball is very complex. It's played 5-on-5, and I wrote down a couple. Like you've got defenders, you've got teammates, you've got time and score, you've got rules in terms of like I can't walk with the ball, I can't double dribble, those kind of things. You've got referees. Sometimes it could be like a psychological thing, like they're saying good, bad. Sometimes it could be like we had one kid a couple years ago, 6'7", real good player, played for the national team. Anytime they played 3-on-3 and they didn't have a referee, he would just bully guys and just use his body, throw his elbows, spin, and just get a bucket because he was really competitive. But what we started to do is I was reffing the games and say, James, you can't do that. That's a foul. You got to play with finesse. You got to be able to be shifty and you use a Eurostep, use your length, your touch around the basket. You can't just bully guys to the rim all the time. And I mean, that's a valuable skill in terms of attacking contact, but that's again using that variable to make him think and facilitate his development in terms of attacking the basket. Then there's strategy. So like there's certain principles. Like defensively, you probably have a couple things going on. It could be we're like a no middle team or we force to the baseline. That's one thing that we do. And do the players know that? And do you hold them accountable to that? Because the other thing, if you flip it offensively and defensively, if I know that, and I know he's really trying to push me to the outside and he's giving me a high foot and there's an advantage, I might attack the high foot, okay? The other thing, defensively, like pick and roll, how do you guard pick and roll? So all these little variables, that's what makes the game so complex. And what we want to try to do is we want to try to work in that sweet spot, right? Again, if you shift this over in terms of the success rate, you look at simple and then you look at complex. We want to be in here. And I mean, here's my point, and I'll go here. If you're talking from like an individual level, okay, If you do it 1-on-0, so let's say we're just focused on the task, the coordination, balance, rhythm, whatever, they may get the most reps handling the rock, manipulating the ball in different ways. If you talk 5-on-5, that's where it's going to be the most game-like because you've got all these variables. And then if you're thinking what I'm going to present today, small-sided games, that's where it's like we're getting the most reps that are game-like. Does that make sense? Okay, is there any questions so far? Am I hitting on a couple things? Making you think a little bit differently? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, you got a question? Yeah? Right. So that could be, so what I mean by good question, what I mean small-sided games, I mean 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, that kind of stuff. Okay. Where else are we here? Where are we here right now? I think we're good. I mean, if no one has any questions, I think we're okay. Do you understand my philosophy though? You see it? You guys get it? There's no questions? Okay. So we're going to get to the empowerment piece. So Tanner, can you help me? Okay. Okay, so going back to my original point, the title of the clinic is, it's real simple. How do we get players to think the game, think about their skill development, how are they getting better? Okay, and I tried this at my summer basketball camp and I thought it was real good. So I'll give a basic one, like in terms of, if you looked at it from, I need to improve my dribbling. And I want the players to think about this. I want you to think about difficulty going back to the board. If you have to do it 1-on-0 and you're just focused on the task of dribbling, what would that look like? Does that make sense? Okay, so you're going to get a ball. Everybody's going to get a ball, and you're going to show the coaches what I mean. And if you don't mean, we're going to. If you don't know what I mean, I'm going to correct it. Okay, so you got to get. Everybody needs a ball. Okay, so again, just to remind you guys and to make sure everybody knows what I'm doing. Thinking, if I were to work on the task of dribbling, there's no decision making. It's just you're developing your coordination, okay, your rhythm, okay, maybe balance. How would you do that in 1-on-0? And then I want you to think about, first of all, I want you to do it easy. And I want to show the coaches right now, what would an easy 1-on-0 drill look like for you? Okay, so everybody has a ball. Show me an easy 1-on-0 drill that you could do. Okay, so again, going back to easy, it was like a 90% success rate. So they're able to maintain their dribble and get it almost every time. So I think this is fair for the most part. Okay, good. Okay, so if we were going to say like a difficult 1-on-1 drill, and again, success rate, maybe you're losing the ball. Let's say half the time you lose the ball, or 60% of the time, or 60%, 40% of the time you lose the ball. Okay, you guys know what I mean? Let's see it. So up the difficulty with the task. Good, nobody's losing the ball. We got 1, 2. We got 2 people that have lost the ball. It's too easy. This is too easy. You got to make it more difficult. You got to figure this out. How are you going to lose the ball? One of the players just said use a tennis ball. That's all right. That's going to develop rhythm, coordination, balance. It's still too easy. Freeze. Okay. So I'm going to pose the question to the coaches, just understanding the framework. How would you make this more difficult in terms of, again, developing coordination, rhythm, balance?
Transition, maybe, dribble to attack the rim or something like that with a spin move.
Right. So you're saying on the move. Yeah, so you could add movement. So let's add movement. Let's add movement. Let's see if we can lose the ball. Yeah, nobody's losing the ball. Okay, freeze. So the other thing, and I feel for you guys because you're presenting in front of all these coaches, and you want to play it safe and you don't want to look bad because all the coaches are watching. I get that, but the problem is if you do that, you're not going to show what we're trying to teach. So you got to get out of your comfort zone and you got to lose the ball. And the other thing, I'll pose this question because I said this is for you as well. How do you actually get better? Just in life, when you think about life, how do you actually get better? You fail. What else? You got to push what does push yourself mean? Okay, what about difficulty? You talk working hard and making things difficult. There's a word that I'm looking for. Starts with a U, N, C. Uncomfortable, getting uncomfortable. So I'll ask you again, are you uncomfortable? Are you guys uncomfortable? Are you? You're uncomfortable because of these people, yeah. But I'm talking specifically with dribbling the ball. You know what I mean? Okay, let's try it. Let's go. Oh, so we've got 2 balls. We've got a player with 2 balls. So we've got people on the move. We've got dribble combinations. Okay, freeze. So here's one thing I want you to think about. And I think, so I'll just admit this. I just graduated college the other day. So I'm really happy about that. I mean, I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get my ed degree, but I got my kin degree. I still live with my parents and I do that. And the one thing that you can think about this. I have my mom and my dad tell me things like, you know, you got to do the laundry, you got to just, you know, and you guys probably feel the same. And it's just always on me. I'm just like, I can't, you know, it bugs me. But sometimes I notice my parents just like kind of back off and they're like, you know, and they just let me do my thing. I just do it and I'm motivated and I get it done. Everything's good. So my point to you guys is, with these guys, I didn't tell them what drill to do to work on their coordination, to work on their dribbling. You just see these guys picking up the basketballs and they're trying things. That's what I think we need to start doing, because again, you don't have so much, you only have so much energy. You know, if you're just constantly on the kids to do this and do that, you're not going to be able to live up to your own potential as a coach, because you're not thinking straight all the time. Does that make sense? You're focused on stuff that they can take care of. And at the same time, I think they enjoy this more because they're doing things, you know, being told. Okay? Okay, so this is what I want you to think about now. If you players now go back to complexity, so you're thinking back to complexity and you're thinking about some of those variables that I mentioned. And what were some of those variables that I mentioned from the whiteboard? Yeah. Teammates. Yeah, that was one. What else? Yep. Speed. I don't know if that was one on there. What's that? Specific. Yeah, that was on the board, but at the top, I said variables, and there was something there. What else? Rules. Yep. So there's like referees. Yep. What else? Defenders. So defenders, teammates, rules. What else? Putting you guys on the spot. We're listening. Referee. Okay, so, and I'll give you a couple. So another one, time and score. So talking about score, talking about time, okay? I'm just going to leave it up to you guys. I want you to think about your dribbling, okay? And I want you to take this, make it more complex where now it becomes a skill because you've considered those variables. Do you understand? Are there any questions? Do you know what you're doing? Okay, so how do you, let's say for simple, let's talk about simple. You only have a couple variables. Okay? Simple, and then you've got complex. I want you to focus on simple and apply one, maybe a second variable. Do you understand? Are there any questions? Okay, let's try it. Okay, freeze. Everybody, for the most part, is doing individual ball handling. You're thinking easy and difficulty. That's where you guys are thinking. I want you to think complex, and I'll reword it. You got to make this more game-like. How are you going to make this more game-like? Does that make sense now? Okay, you got to make your dribbling drills more game-like. There you go. Let's see. Okay, I'll ask you this. In a game, would you ever dribble by yourself with no defense, no defenders, no time, no score? Would you ever do that? by yourself in a court. Is basketball an open space? You doing 1-on-0 drills. Is that what basketball is? So you got to make this more like basketball and work on your dribbling at the same time. What are the variables? You got defenders, you've got time, you've got teammates, you've got a score, you've got a clock. Okay, so we've added defender. Let's keep going. So we've got some one-on-one. We've got some one-on-one. So again, I'll pose this question to you. In a game, would you ever dribble 1-on-0 with an open court? Is that what basketball is? No. So how are you going to make this more like basketball and work on your dribbling at the same time? Yeah, you got to talk to somebody. Get in a group of 3. That's all right. Yeah. Okay, so for sure I'm seeing 1-on-1, so we've added another defender. That's great. Okay, so now I want you to think in your little 1-on-1, how can you make it more game-like? Let's see it. How are you gonna, you gotta up it a little bit, you gotta up the complexity. How are you gonna make this more game-like? In a game, and I'll ask you this, how many guys in a game, do you ever play 1-on-1? No, how many guys play, or how many girls play in the game? 5 on what? 5. So how are you gonna make, I'm asking you, out of your 1-on-1, you go ahead, figure it out. And again, the focus is dribbling. You're working on dribbling. How are you going to work on your dribbling to make it more game-like? So the other thing I love, organization. The kids are figuring out how to get things going. We always come to the gym, 3 on this side, we're always directing traffic. We got to be able to just let them do their thing. Again, you've only got so many energy, so much time, and the other thing is, they start to tune you out. They tune you out if you're talking too much. Let's see what we got. Let's see it. So, ball. Hey, watch the ball. Yeah. Cool, so we've got some 1-on-2. And then the other thing I'll get you to think about is, do the kids really understand the concept that I'm trying to teach them? Because they're all doing the same drill. You know, if I said to them, hey, we're still going to work on ball handling, but you can't do the same thing that everybody else is doing. Because they may just look around and say, oh, they're playing 1-on-2, we're going to do 1-on-2. But they have no understanding of the concept. Okay, now freeze. The other thing in terms of getting better, okay? You can't get better if you're hurt. You get worse probably, right? Yeah? You guys understand? So we've got all these basketballs in the game, on the floor, and we're trying to play 1-on-2. So my tip is, again, trying to get better, we need to get these balls off the floor before we start. They shouldn't be on the floor. Okay, and then we've got all this space over here. Okay, let's go. Let's go. So we've got some 2-on-2. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so 2 things I want you to think about with your practice, with your workouts. How are you implementing self-organization? Because in the game, again, you're not able to stop the game. Everybody freeze. No, we got to go through that set. You can't do that. The kids have to be able to figure things out. So how are you implementing self-organization, number 1, and how are you implementing self-discovery, where they got to figure things out. They got to try things. Because I think you guys are good, freezing the balls. You go back to my board. Again, you work on the task. It could be specific to, what's an example? Let's say dribbling, okay? We're talking about dribbling, but you talk about ball manipulation 1-on-0. So manipulating the ball in different ways, in and out, wrapping it. You can work on that. I'm not saying you're not going to get better at an in and out dribble or behind the back by just working on it. It's going to take some coordination, especially when you got the little kids that can't even maintain their dribble. You know, they're just slapping the ball. You know, you're going to have to teach them that. That's fine. You're going to have to work on it. But what I'm saying is, there may be a time in the game where I'm coming up the court, I see two people, split it, I go behind the back to split it. I've just come up with a solution to split it, and I didn't have to do all, you're still gonna work on it, but what I'm saying is, when the kids understand the context, I think there's retention. Over time, they actually, they think about it and they understand it, where they can maintain that skill and understand the process of it. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so we're gonna stay with this for a little bit longer. Again, I want you to think about how you're working on your dribbling, and now again, you're gonna make it more complex, more game-like. How are you gonna make this more game-like? Okay, so I saw some 1-on-2, which is great. Thinking about those variables, I haven't seen anybody using time. Nobody's talked about time. I haven't seen any boundaries. Maybe tight space, maybe I got between this line and this line, I gotta, so you gotta figure it out. What are you gonna do? What variables are you gonna use? How do you make this more game-like? Let's go. Yeah, play. Okay, so what have you got? I'll just freeze, and I'll get you to talk loudly so the coaches can hear. How have you made this more game-like? You got to talk loudly so all the coaches can hear. Use your gym voice. Louder. Good.
A box.
Yep.
A battery so that we can trap the ball here.
Okay, so this is good. And I love that you guys are getting excited about this. This is great. Shouldn't you come to the gym and be excited and enjoy what you're doing? You guys are excited, that's great. So you think about getting better is fun. Why can't it be fun, right? And you guys are doing that, that's great. The one thing I'll say, so you're thinking about now different constraints, different rules, and you're thinking about, you got to play in this box, you got to add this time. Think about why you're doing that. I heard you guys talk about a 24-second shot clock. Okay, how is that going to help? And I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just wondering. Yeah.
Because how much time we have on the clock?
Yeah, so that's good. That's great. But here's another question, because what is it, 2-on-2 right now, or is it 1-on-2? So 1-on-2, you've got way more what? A lot more space. So to make it maybe a little bit more challenging, what could you do? Yeah, maybe you shut it down. Maybe you put it down to 12 seconds, 5 seconds. What did you say? Someone said something else? Boundaries? So what are the boundaries?
Right now it's just we'll play it in the normal court.
Okay.
If we want to make it tighter, that can make it a lot harder.
Okay. All right. So this is the last time I'm going to get you to do it. Try to make it as complex as you can make it, as game-like as you can make it. I want to see what you guys come up with. Is the game yeah, you got a question? Yeah, what's your question? Yeah. You got it loud so you guys can. Yeah.
What if we can have from yellow to this yellow, and we only have this side of the basket to score at. We only have 2 dribbles to score the ball.
Great, I like that. So coaches, listen to this one. What's your name? Victor? Victor just came up with a constraint. So he said, what about having 2 dribbles? They got a 2 dribble max. So Victor, I'll ask you this. How would a 2 dribble max help you right now? How does that help your dribbling?
Makes us smarter with the ball and makes us have a quicker possession. Us players makes us faster, makes the game faster for us.
Yeah.
And
I think you're right with your point. I think you're a little bit more efficient with what you do. You can't just drop dribble and waste a dribble. Your triple threat game's got to clean up a little bit. You got to use your jabs. Your first dribble to the most part, it's got to be north-south. Yeah, that's good. What did you guys do to make this more game-like? Okay, so how is that working on dribbling?
You have to dribble to make the pass. Oh, get over, yeah.
I don't know. Does that fit?
Not really.
Okay, well, again, my issue with this is I'm saying as game-like as it can be, and that's a good, you're thinking differently, you're trying to do things, which is great, but this isn't game-like yet, because this is only 2-on-2. So what do you think you're going to have to do to make this more game-like? What's that? Yeah, attack, but maybe adding these people. Maybe playing 3-on-3 or 4-on-4. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this part up in a second. The one thing I thought was cool, the kid at my camp in the summertime, one group came up with, they were playing 3-on-3, okay? And they were using a ball screen, and they'd come on, and it was scripted, so every time would start off a ball screen and they'd play. And I asked them, how is that working on your dribbling? Well, again, it's the guy with the ball. He's working on his dribbling. Everybody else is working on spacing or whatever. But again, the more we can make it more game-like, I think the more we're going to have a better chance at enhancing or improving game performance. Okay? Are there any questions so far? I think what I'm going to do with the last half an hour is I'm going to show shooting, I think, how we could make shooting more game-like, and how we could make finishing. Well, that's what I got planned for the next half an hour. Are there any questions? Yeah, I'm sorry. Shooting and finishing. Finishing at the basket. Yeah. Anything else? Any questions? Okay. All right, so here's what I want you guys to do. Are you guys good? Are you learning? What have you learned so far in this one session we've had right now, the last half an hour? What have you learned?
Make it fun and figure it out.
Make it fun and figure it out. What do you mean by figure out? Figure it out.
You gotta figure out something that'll make it fun, but also make it more game-like and more realistic.
Okay, and how do you define fun? What does fun mean to you? Because some coaches, when they hear fun, they kind of cringe a little bit. So I think, because some people might think fun is, jumping up and down and being silly. What do you mean by fun?
Competitive.
It's competitive and you enjoy it, right? Like, that's great. I like that. That's great. What else? Yeah. Victor, you got some?
Being more engaged in the drill.
Okay, and how does it make you more engaged in the drill?
If the drill's fun,
Yeah, so because it's fun and you're enjoying it and you're competing, you're more engaged, you're try a little bit harder, work harder. Okay, talk about game-like. What have you learned about making things more game-like? To make
Add variables.
add variables, great. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to go back to difficulty. So you're thinking coordination, you're thinking rhythm, you're thinking balance, and I want you to apply that to finishing. And what I mean by finishing is at the basket. You're trying to finish at the basket. Okay? You're thinking about, I'll pose it like this. You're trying to think of a simple drill to work on finishing. Okay, you guys got it. Let's see it. Again, I'm just trying to challenge your thinking. So why layup lines? They go to immediately layup lines like they make it every time. So why do coaches do layup lines in warm-up? What's the function? Get a lot of layups? That's good. When is it so easy that's gonna, like, what is it gonna do?
Sometimes just clean up the technical aspect, where you pick up the ball,
Right.
where you're finishing outside your body, and something on that without
Okay. But again, easy versus difficult, right? Like the next question is, again, working rhythm, coordination, ball manipulation. We're gonna think about how we can make this more difficult in a second. But again, my original question was just doing basic layup lines, I just questioned, again, the reps, that might be one thing just to get people moving.
Someone like you put someone with a football pad underneath the hoop.
A pad, right, sure, yep. So there's some contact. So you're making that, in my framework, you're making it more difficult. Okay, freeze, that's good, guys. So what I want you to think about now, and this is good, so I'll just stop for a second. Okay. what I start to see, like you guys start to get bored with that. So what'd you just do? No, what did he do? He did a 360 layup. So that's all right. What do you, I'll ask the coaches, by doing a 360 layup, what does that do? Exactly, right. Okay. What does it do? Are there any benefits to doing a 360 layup? Okay. Challenge, creativity, yep.
Disorientation.
And what do you mean by disorientation?
They're disorienting the players, so now they have to refocus as they come around, focusing on the basket.
Oh, right.
They're throwing themselves off.
Like the angle to the basket and all that kind of stuff? Right, yeah. Right, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. So I'd say that's more difficult. Easy, right? You probably won't make that every time. Okay, so I'll ask you this, how do you work on, how could you make this finishing drill more difficult? You guys figure it out, I don't know, you figure it out. How do you make this more difficult? Hey, not complex. We don't want, adding a defender, freeze, stop, watch the ball, watch the ball. Freeze. Again, understand, go back to the whiteboard. Difficulty versus complexity. You're not making this more game-like. We saw the 360. We had some great suggestions on why help. Another one could be body control. Another manipulation. Like Kyrie Irving, there's going to be times where the kids call it jelly, so he's going to go up and he's going to use ball spin. You know, he's really going to extend. Sometimes he'll show it, and he'll extend outside his body, and he'll flick it. So all I'm asking is, this can't be game-like. This has to be just a difficult, you're focusing on the task, finishing at the basket, that's it. And again, it's probably 1-on-0. Think 1-on-0 right now, just 1-on-0. You're working your coordination, 1-on-0. How are you going to make this more difficult? No defender. There can't be a defender. Hey guys, no defender. Hey, freeze. No, we're not making this game-like. In a game, you're going to see a defender. I don't want that.
Okay.
I want,
I'm just hitting them when they're going out for a layup.
Oh, you're just making contact? So is there any decision that he's making?
No.
Perfect. If there's no decision-making, that's not game-like. He's just working on, with contact. Right, so that's good. Yeah, here we go. So every time he knows I'm going to drive it, I'm going to get bumped, and I'm going to have to finish. Yeah, that's working body control. I'm working balance. Yeah. Is this game-like? No. It doesn't happen in a game. You're never going to have someone standing there. Just, you know what's going to happen. You've anticipated he's just going to bump you. Doesn't happen. Good. So now the players are starting to work their bodies. They're using spins. I like he's pumping, so he's showing up. He's showing the ball, and he's flicking it in. Yeah, again, watch that ball. Guys, we got balls underneath. You're going to get hurt. You got to kick the ball. Yeah. To the side. Because if you land, you're going to sprain an ankle. Okay, let's see. Good. Okay. Yeah, between the legs. Yeah, that's okay. Working body control. Yeah, some jelly. Okay, you guys got it. You get the idea. So again, I'm not saying I never do this stuff. I like doing it because kids think it's fun. They think this is fun sometimes to warm up. And I think especially early on, manipulating the ball, like I talked about, I'm sorry, what's your name, Canada? Emma? She came down, she drove it, she went up and she flicked it. Like I think sometimes players need that initial just, I can do this 1-on-0, but as soon as possible, I want to try to get them playing where they've got to make some decisions. Okay, so now go back to complexity. I want you to think simple drill where you've got one, maybe two variables, and you're working on finishing. Figure it out. And the other thing I'm interested in, again, because I'm seeing a couple people cringe as I talk about a couple things, I want you to think about your criticisms. Why you think this is no good, or not, all together, but maybe there's specific things that you don't like that you know, doesn't make sense. Because the last 5 minutes I want to talk about those things. Okay. And the other thing, I think that's just, as you give them opportunities to self-organize, so they're trying to figure out the rotation of the drill, if they do this every day, they'll probably get a lot more efficient. They won't waste as much time. Like right now, everybody's just kind of figuring this out because they're not used to it. But you give them a chance to figure it out, you'll be a lot more efficient. And again, the idea is, when I'm not in the gym, what are you going to do to get better? That's my point. If I'm in the gym, I have specific things addressing either team needs or individual needs, and that's what I'm going to talk about for the second presentation. Okay, so that's good. So I'll ask you guys freeze for a second. I think some of us are still trying to figure out the concept of how to make this more game-like. I'll give you some more time in a second. But I want to focus on this group. You guys got into, I guess we'd say, you know, wing pick and roll, but the angle was different, so we call this, you know, a step-up pick and roll. Okay, so how did you, like, what variables were you thinking of working on finishing? Like, what were the variables that you guys had here?
Attacking downhill, make it so you can use your speed better to attack.
Okay.
And it's hard to drop corners instead of the middle, so we're trying to just...
Okay, so in games, I'll ask you this. Do you make decisions in games? When do you make decisions in games?
all the time.
All the time. So tell me all the time. What does that mean?
Like when you're passing, when you're shooting, when you're driving.
Okay, so when you have the ball in your hands, you're always making a decision. Yeah, when else do you make decisions?
Defense,
Defensively. Okay, what are a couple decisions you could make?
stretch, edge.
Yeah, so it could be a specific coverage. What else?
Foul on purpose.
Yeah, it might be in a game where we need to foul. It could be a free throw shooter or just to stop. You know, you see it international, they stop the break. Yeah. What else?
Whether you get a three or a layup, or whether to stop the ball or...
Right. Okay, so you guys get my point. You're making decisions all the time, no matter if you're guarding the ball, if you have the ball, if you're if you're in position off the ball, if you're off the ball and you're spaced. You're always making decisions. Okay? So going back to your drill, how are you making decisions in your drill? What decision making was going on? Because that's essentially what game-like means. You're making decisions. So what decisions were you making in your drill that was working on finishing?
For finishing? Oh, no.
Yeah, because the focus was finishing.
Not that much really. More defense, but not really that much offense.
Okay. Yep.
So maybe we could add dummy defense or something.
So you could add a defender at the basket? Okay. But there was one thing I saw with the pick and roll. In finishing, you think about finishing. Can I get you guys set up in a pick and roll right here? Someone has the ball. Okay, and you set the step up pick and roll. Good. As you come off, freeze. So you've got a choice that you can make. What's your choice? Over, right? You probably, first of all, as he's coming, if we clean up defense, you already want to be in pick and roll, and then you're going to make a choice. Okay, so you got a decision. Good. Let's see it. So what decision are you going to make? Goes under. Freeze. Okay, so what this could be now is I've got him under. This is like a race to the rim. I'm trying to just beat him to the basket. Like, let's say I'm not Steph Curry. Steph Curry, he's just going to shoot this thing. We're not Steph Curry. We're working on finishing. He's going to go under. Now I got a different angle to the rim. I got this guy chasing me from the inside. Okay? If you back this up, you back it up all the way. And say he goes over. And say you set a great screen. Freeze. Rewind. Do it again. Okay? You come off, like when you come off a pick and roll and you know he's pressuring you, how should you come off?
Oh, I try and get on my back immediately.
Well, you show the coaches, you know, show them how smart you are. You got it. Good. Freeze. Yes, good. Stop. Bring it back to this point right here. Good. I like how you're thinking. So you put them on your back. Good. Put them on your back. Freeze right here. So there's going to be times where I've got a defender on my back. There's going to be times where I got a defender on my side. That's all. So to me, you would think, this doesn't relate to finishing, but it does. because you're putting the defender in a different position every time. Sometimes on my back, sometimes maybe in front of me. I got to get around this guy and be shifty. He's on the side. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so how do you make this more complex? Let's see it. How do you make this more complex? Show the coaches. You got about a minute to figure this out. How do you make, and I'm sorry, so this is the thing you got to be careful with your kids. I keep saying complex and they don't understand, so I got to say game-like. And seems like that's triggering. So be careful with your terminology. Good. So we see some 2-on-2 when under on the pick and roll. Turn it over. Hey, so we still got guys playing 1-on-1. Hey, you guys, it's not game-like right now. You got to make it more game-like. I mean, it's game-like, but I'm asking to make it more game-like. Yeah? And you're also thinking you're trying to train the players too, working on that continuum. Like trying to get them to be out of their comfort zone. That's where you want them to be, just at that sweet spot. So I wouldn't just try to continue to rank complexity when we work with the kids. We'd gradually try to find the spot. You know, where are they making mistakes? Where are they seeing some success? Okay, so we've still got some 1-on-1. We've got some 2-on-2. Is this 2-on-2? Okay. So the question is, how are we working on finishing? You're working on some stuff. You're working on anticipating the closeout, some shot preparation. That's good. But I'm asking you, hey, freeze, players, stop. This is where you guys need to be better, okay? You need to start having a plan for when you go to the gym. What am I working on today? You know, you got to be strategic, or you're not going to get much better because you're just working on this, I'll work on that today. You got to have a plan. What's the one thing for the next 3 months that I'm going to spend time on? You know, so that's how you got to think of this right now. It could be the coach saying, hey, you got to work on finishing. You got to be better around the rim. And you might need him to help you define what that is, give more explanation. But you got to be strategic right now. You know, you guys just playing off a closeout, it's good stuff. You're playing with space, but you're not working on finishing. So work on finishing at the basket. Let's go. So we still got 1-on-1. The other thing you got to start to think about is I've given them a chance to figure this out. Some of them are struggling and they don't have ideas for how they can work on finishing. I may have to step in now and facilitate and give them a couple ideas that will help them if they're struggling. You know, like one thing we may do, I'll give you one right now. This could make it a little bit more complex. Freeze! Hey, freeze! Because I want to do some shooting stuff too. Let's say we do this. Okay, we're hip to hip. Again, I'm just making this up on the spot. You're hip to hip. So we're giving them a slight advantage. Is this game-like in terms of starting from this position? No, but again, we're focused more on the finishing right now, just giving you a slight advantage. Okay, let's say we'll add a defender, okay, and we'll have you, you know, on the lane line, okay? So you're the next defender, you're here, you're out, okay? Actually, I'll put you in the charge circle. Let's put you in the charge circle. Or just one of you guys. Just one of you dudes, yeah, okay? And we may start, you know, again, from different spots. I may give them a game where I say, hey, you're going to drive it. You got to stay clean. You know, you're going to stay vertical. Like there's no swinging. Again, if anybody gets hurt, we're not making anybody better. So you got to stay vertical in between him and the rim. You can contest. You know, so we may play a one-on-one game out of this. Like this might be a one-on-one game. We may, you know, add it where now we've got somebody on the hip. Okay? We may add it where we say, okay, you're going to be in front of me, so you play him in front. Okay? Now I'm going to take you, you're going to be out. You're going to be here on the lane line. Okay? And your rule is you're playing one-on-one out of a triple threat. So play out of a triple threat, your jab game, your jab series. Let's go. Okay, you're attacking freeze. What we'll say is if he enters the key, you're going to be live. Ready? Let's see it. So again, I'm just trying to give different ideas. Like we're engaging a defender as soon as he gets to a boundary, a spot on the floor. Good, and we're playing. Good, in different angles. Good. You know, good. Okay, you guys get it? Get the concept? Any questions? Okay. So I quickly want to do shooting, so I'm not going to give you a lot of time. Give me an easy shooting drill, 1-on-0, easy shooting drill. you're probably getting like a 90% success rate. 1-on-0. It's 1-on-0. An easy drill. Let's go. You don't got much time. So already they're making it more game-like. They got a closeout. So again, I'll just say this, because they want to play. You know, you guys see the value in it. It's great. But what I'm asking you to do, just for the coaches, how do you make this an easy drill 1-on-0? An easy drill. You got to close out. You got to contest it. You got a variable. I don't want that. Hey, freeze. Listen, everybody, hold on. This is important. You're working on rhythm, coordination, balance, and you're about 90%, 85% success rate. That's what easy is. Coordination, rhythm, balance, 1-on-0. You got to figure it out. 1-on-0. Let's go. And I'll give you one drill that I like, because again, I'm not saying you never do stuff 1-on-0. You need to get in and sometimes you just got to get in the game. A guy needs to see the ball go in the net. You know, the university guys at least. Good. So he's on the move. He's shooting at a different spot every time. I'd say you could make this easier, looking at the range, getting him to shoot closer to the basket. Okay. Again, safety. So guys don't have the habits of keeping the ball to the side. But maybe it's spot shooting. So I shoot from one spot. I'm about 5 feet, and I'm shooting the ball. Let's see their success rate. So he's 1-1. 1-2. He's at 50. 1-3. 1-4. He's at 25%. So maybe you got to figure out, how can I make this easier? Okay, he's on the move. He's changing spots every time. Again, I think this is a time where you can correct on, shooting on balance, hand preparation, some of those nitty-gritty details if you're into that kind of stuff. I feel sometimes, though, when you focus on those nitty-gritty details, you can break them, and I feel you can teach it a different way, and I'm going to show that really quick. Okay, freeze. Okay, so, and if you want more of this stuff, in terms of the shooting stuff, I got a bunch of it. Like, this is something I stole from one of my buddies, and I'm going to give him a shout out because I know it's being video recorded. Named Shay Frazee. He's one of my guys from Los Angeles, and he got them to do 3 jumps. So he was working on body control, stabilizing the core. So one of the things he was doing, again, this isn't game-like because I can't travel. Okay, but I'm working rhythm, coordination, balance. So he'd get them to do max jumps. Okay, and on the last one, I'd shoot and I'd have to really engage my core, be springy off the floor, and I felt that was really good for getting guys to be, to activate their core and just shoot on balance. So that was one thing we did, but not game-like. So let's do this. How can you make this more difficult? Make this more difficult. Make it a difficult shooting drill. Okay, so a couple of things we saw already. Shooting on the move. Shooting on the move. A lot of the players right now, for the most part, are just sliding, like they're sliding. Maybe you get them doing a different movement. Maybe touching, backpedaling, getting their feet set and shooting. That could make it more difficult. Maybe the other thing you could do is someone's shooting and I give them numbers. Again, it's not game-like. I could touch. I did this with a couple, our university guys, just to warm them up. Touch. If you yell out 1 on the air time, catch and shoot. Touch. If you hear 2, super speed. As quick as you can, get rid of it. If you hear 3, it's got to be escape dribble. You throw that out, get separation, and shoot the ball. So, again, I'm just trying to get you guys to think a little bit differently. Okay, freeze. Okay, so I think we're getting the concept, and the other thing is players too. If you guys are interested in this stuff and you want to hear more about it, or maybe I didn't explain myself as well as I should have, just come talk to me. It's for the coaches too. So what I want you to think of is a simple drill that you can work on shooting. Okay, you're going to get 1 or 2 variables. I'll give you one that I saw when you guys started. You're playing out of a closeout. That was good. That was a simple drill, 1-on-1. Let's see it. You got like 1 minute. You got 1 minute. Let's go. Figure it out. You're making a simple shooting drill. So you could do this. For a practice, you could just run your practice just like this clinic, just for a day. And once you give them that chance to learn it and get it, then you can send them off on their way, and you'll never have to do it again. You may have to come to the gym and facilitate. The other thing is, we see a down screen. That's good, yeah. So not only are we playing out of a closeout, I'm also reading my defender. Does he chase and tail, okay, or does he shoot the gap? Okay, so we're seeing a closeout. And then the other thing you might want to talk to them is about their efficiency. So these are just habits. You got to keep the balls off the floor. If you guys are going to get in for 20 minutes, like there can't be any leg time. Like, why are you taking 30 seconds to get to the next rep? Like, those little details you can clean up. But what I'm trying to get you to do is understand the concept or the framework that I've kind of tried to conceptualize with skill development. Okay. So we've got a closeout. Okay, so again, how are you going to make this more game-like? You got to up the game-like. How are you going to up the game-like? Let's see it. Okay, so the down screen's good. I like that. Yeah. And I like this quote. Again, I'm quoting Brian McCormick. He says, if you ever get a catch and you know you're going to shoot, that's not a game shot. So in that last situation, I believe he got the catch off a down screen and he had to use a balance to get to his pull-up. Right? That's what happens in a game. You guys go ahead. But freeze, I want you to think about, okay, how can you make this more complex or game-like? I'll give you one. Hey, coach, I'll give you one. I'll give these guys a break. Hey, freeze. Okay, so now we may get into secondary actions. Okay, like I'm a big motion offense guy. So we bring this back. Get to your down screen. Okay, so we give them, more advanced reads. So let's say we set this pin down, this wide pin down. Okay, you tail it. You've done a great job. You've got into him. You're staying attached. He's got no separation. We got our catch. If he shoots a shot, for probably all the players that you have, it's probably a really bad shot. You probably, there's some type of coaching intervention. Okay, you tell him this isn't good. So what we could do is saying, well, don't take those shots. So you got to work for a better shot. So for us in motion, we could have different reads. Again, this is not, I'm not saying we do this with our team, but this is a read that you could have. So after I set the down screen, or the pin down, so you're off, I've taken your spot, you don't got any separation. Another read we could play out of is a throw and go. So I go from here, I turn around, now you pass it, and now you're playing out of this cut, right? And we got to play, and that could be a shot, right? You're open, you went under, but you're thinking the game. Like, I don't have an open shot, so I got to get to the next one. Let's see that. You guys are good. You guys can just chill for a second. Let's see that. And if you're open, you take the shot. You got an advantage, you got to attack. But you got no separation, you got to get to the next action. Yeah, sure, now, good. We got some blind pick. Yeah, but no one's guarding him, but he's got a cut, but you guys get the idea. Okay, we don't have enough time. But if you got one or two questions, again, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out, but this is right now how I like to do skill development with our players. If there's any questions or any criticisms or anything, I'm open. I don't know, I'm not saying this is all right, this is the way to do it. This is just how I think, or how I like to do it. Yeah.
So you say motion offense. I'm a motion offense kind of guy.
So, you want to wear my mic so everybody can hear you? Yeah, just do that. Yeah. And then the mic they can do.
Sure.
Here.
I didn't want that much attention.
You're all right.
All I was going to say is, what I do like about this is allowing the players to have a little bit more decision making, a little bit more creativity, because I find sometimes as coaches, it's A to B, B to C, C to D, and there's too much structure in it, so there's not enough decision making. What I am worried about with some of this is some of what I've seen is maybe not following the fundamental laws, right? So some of the kids are out here just kind of doing whatever they feel like, footwork's maybe bad or things they're doing is bad. So would there be parameters around what kind of decisions or what kind of empowerment you would give them?
Okay, so let's say one of the pet peeves from a lot of coaches is get into a 2-foot jump stop, right? Some coaches, for whatever, I'm not, freeze, you guys are good, I'm not, freeze. So get into a 2-foot jump stop. So every time I enter the lane, unless I've got like a naked layup, I can just lift this thing up. You know, most coaches that I know say you got to play on 2 feet, you know, and then if you don't got anything, you got to be able to get in here on 2 feet, you got to be able to pivot, and you got to, hit the fill behind guy or whatever. So like, let's say that was one of the things. You could just apply, and I wrote it on the board, if you get a chance, maybe take a picture of the board so you got everything, but just constraints. Like every time you get into the key, we're going to play one-on-one, you got to get to 2 feet. One of the games that I liked a lot with my summer camp, like the rondo finish. So Rondo's finishes, he stride stops, he goes outside inside, he pivots, so he goes 1, 2, he shows it, and then he turns around and finishes. I'll show it on the basket so you got context. Attacks here, shows it, and then he turns around and gets into this. So we were working on footwork and we were saying, okay, either for the kids that were really struggling, we'd give them a slight advantage, and we'd say, okay, you're going to drive, but you got to play out of the rondo footwork. So you're going to get here, you're going to go 1, 2, you got it, it's open, you if not, he cut you off, now you got to play. So that to me is how I could improve the footwork, again with context, where it transfers over to the game and it affects their performance and improves their footwork. Okay, any other questions? That's it, thanks for asking, that's good. Okay, we're done, thanks guys.
I'm sitting down and listening, and I think the thing that is one of the coolest things about what Jon just talked about and what he showed is that as a coach, there's vulnerability. You're being vulnerable with your players.